Here we are for part 2 of our sew along on our Simplicity jacket, and this is the pattern that we picked up at Walmart, 1738, Sew Simple. And we have gone through the beginning parts of understanding the measuring and laying out of the pattern. Now we're working on making our muslin or our mock-up pattern. Because we're going to be altering this pattern, I don't want to use my original tissue paper pattern. I don't want to cut this up because I plan on making other garments with this, other jackets. So what I have done is I have cut out half of my jacket in a muslin. You can use scrap fabric, cheap dollar Walmart fabric, old t-shirts, but I have made the front and collar piece. I cut that out, only one, and I label each of my pattern pieces so that I know what it is that I'm looking at. I cut out the back, labeled that, the side front, and the side back. And I've transferred the notches as well so that I know where to match these notches up at on each of the pattern pieces. And I will stitch this up, and then I'll be able to tell where I want to make my cut at for the waist to add on that circle peplum on the back of that jacket that we've seen in the picture in our sewing group. I'm going to go ahead and do this step of stitching together my half of the muslin, and then I'm going to come back and we will learn how to alter our pattern to make the finished jacket. I have taken our muslin pieces from our jacket and I have sewn them together with a long hand basting stitch so that it will be easier for me to remove. I'm only putting this together because we have to try this on the half of the jacket that we've made to determine where we're going to make this cut at. I tried the jacket on and I pinpointed that this was where I wanted the waist to be, where that circle part will then attach. I'm going to go down an additional 5/8 of an inch below that, and I'm going to mark with a ruler to make sure that I have a seam allowance because I'm going to connect that peplum with it. Now, to make things easier, I'm going to leave this piece right here, which is this piece of the jacket. I'm going to leave that intact, and I'm going to start it actually here at the piece that we have marked as the side front. So the only pieces that are going to be affected by the cut off for the new pattern alteration is going to be the side front, the side back, and the back. And I will go ahead and I will mark these pieces on my muslin, and then I will take out the stitching and I will make the cuts on the muslin, remembering to add in my 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. And then I will have my pattern that I can go ahead and use to cut out the fabric with. The next part we'll meet back up for the sew along on the jacket, and that will include making the pattern for that circle peplum detail that goes on the back. Just a construction note on stitching up the muslin mock-up for making our pattern. When you're putting this together, you're going to want to make sure that you transferred all of your notches from the pattern onto your fabric that you're using to do this with. And you just line up those little notches together, pin it, and then go ahead and stitch it. You're going to hear the baby making noises. You're also going to have, I wanted to show you, some parts that the fabric is not going to lay nice and smooth. And this you just kind of have to ease in. You can see right there where the fabric is bubbled up. But after we finish the garment, we're going to clip all of these curves and press it, and that will lie flat. Here on this woven piece, it's not lying flat, but that's okay. You can see that this is the curve here, and that actually adds shape to the jacket later. Just make sure that you always match up your little marks that you made and pin it really well. Stitch it using a long stitch so it's easier to remove in the end. You can sew this on your sewing machine using a long stitch and number 5. Boo, be quiet. Just make sure that it's a loose stitch because we're not leaving this stitched, and don't back stitch it. We want to be able to take this apart easily so that we're using this to make our pattern with in the end, okay? The next part we're going to meet up, we're going to talk about making that circle detail in the back. And we're almost finished with the pattern process and ready to get started with making the regular jacket.